I never thought my boss would follow me home. What he discovered was life-changing. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started out like any other Tuesday. Just the sound of clicking keyboards, the incessant hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, and my heart racing as I sat at my desk, drowning in work. I remember the chill of the air conditioning, sending shivers down my spine. This was a day just like any other, until he appeared behind me. His shadow loomed large, blocking out the light. It sent a shudder through my body. I turned, heart thumping, and found him staring down at me with those intense, piercing eyes. "I need to talk to you," he said, voice low and serious. My stomach turned. Was he about to fire me? Why was he hovering there like a storm cloud? After what felt like hours, we stepped out into the cool evening. The sky was a deep navy, the stars just beginning to peep through, but my mind was tangled in knots. Why didn't he just come out and say it? I followed him, a puppet on strings, as we walked in silence. The tension crackled between us. The streets whispered secrets, hidden lives, bright neon signs flickered, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart that he suddenly pulled into my driveway. I was frozen in disbelief. Why was he here? Panic danced in my chest. The door creaked open, revealing the messy chaos of my life. Bills piled high, laundry spilling from the basket like an uncontained waterfall. "This isn't what I expected," he said, peering around, his face tight with confusion that I could feel my face burn. This was my sanctuary, my private hell. He looked at me, and I saw something shift in his expression, curiosity mixed with concern. And all I could think as he stepped further inside was, will he leave me alone now? Or is this just the beginning? The fridge hummed, the silence grew thicker. My hands trembled. Here was the man who controlled my paycheck, and I felt exposed, raw. What if he told everyone about this? That I was living in disarray? I wished I could crawl under the floorboards, disappear. My eyes darted around, looking for an escape, not ready to uncover the mess of my reality. Then he asked the question that would change everything. "Why do you live like this?" His tone was a mixture of disbelief and sympathy. The lump in my throat tightened. I couldn't answer right away. The words clung to my insides like fog, suffocating and heavy. Just then, the wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. A flash of color, a glimmer of light. I turned, heart racing again, and there it was, a small box tucked away in the corner of the room that I had thought hidden for good. I hadn't even realized it was there. What was in it? The uncertainty swirled in my mind like a tempest. What if he saw that box? What if he opened it? My heart raced even faster. I stood there, paralyzed, thoughts colliding. The shadows lengthened, and I knew I could either dive into the darkness or confront whatever was inside. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air felt electric, thick with tension as I stood at the precipice of revelation. My heart raced, sweat beating at my temples. All I could think about was that box. What if it held the remnants of my broken past? The memories I thought I had buried deep enough to never resurface? His gaze followed mine as I hesitated, the dim light casting long shadows that danced along the walls, but I couldn't conjure the courage to speak. My fingers tightened into fists at my sides. Silence enveloped us, heavy and suffocating, until he took a step closer, the corners of his mouth pulling down in concern. "Hey," he said softly, his voice about an echo of reassurance, "you don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to discuss." The gentle tone cut through the fog of anxiety I was trapped in, and I found myself trapped in his keen gaze. But the box had represented everything I was terrified of. The circular patterns etched into its surface seemed to mock my fear. Memories of my childhood rushed over me, fragments of laughter, the smell of my mother's perfume, and the day I buried it away after life had torn it apart. I could hardly breathe as the weight of my reality crashed over me like waves, each more relentless than the last. It's just a box," I finally whispered, but I could feel the crack in my voice. The moment hung in the air, fragile, but he didn't look away. Instead, he took a step toward the box, the motion fluid and deliberate, breaking the spell we were under. My heart sank at the thought of him discovering its contents. "Let me help you," he said, and before I could protest, he reached for it. My instincts screamed at me to stop him, to drown him in my anxiety, but the way he held my gaze made me hesitate. He didn't see me as a failure, he saw someone who needed saving. For the first time in a long while, I felt the warmth of a tiny ember of hope flicker in my heart that he lifted the lid slowly, revealing a tangle of old photographs, dusty letters, and a stuffed animal I thought I had lost forever. More than mere objects, they were pieces of a life I had tried to forget. Tears pricked at my eyes as I caught glimpses of a younger me, vibrant and alive, before the burdens of life weighed me down. "Does this mean something to you?" His voice was low, the reverberation of curiosity somehow soothing my frayed nerves. How could I answer that question? Part of me wanted to scream how every piece in that box told a story of loss, of dreams taking flight only to be chased down by harsh realities. Instead, I chose silence. He picked up the stuffed animal, holding it delicately between his fingers. "This is so worn out," he noted with a hint of a smile. "Any particular stories attached to it?" Hopeful laughter bubbled up despite the weight in my chest. "That was my constant companion. It got me through the worst nights," I said, wiping away a tear. "But after a while, I just abandoned all of it." The corners of his eyes softened, and he seemed to absorb my words like a sponge, relishing in the glimpse of my vulnerability. "You don't have to abandon your past. It shapes who you are, but it doesn't define you." As the gravity of his words unfurled, I realized the truth in them was monumental. Could I allow myself to be more than just the mistakes and the chaos that wrapped around me like a cloak? Just as a tiny flicker of aspiration ignited within, the breath of fresh air shattered when my phone buzzed on the table. I looked down to see a message from my sister, the one I hadn't heard from in weeks. The message read, "We need to talk. It's urgent." An icy dread sank into my stomach. I looked up at my boss, and the fleeting moment of connection evaporated, replaced by a rush of tension. "I'm sorry, I need to take this." My hand shook as I answered, my voice struggling to carry the weight of uncertainty. "Hello." The voice on the other end was shaky, filled with anxiety. "I don't know how to tell you this, but Mom's been admitted to the hospital." In that single instant, the little hope I had felt crumbled beneath the weight of a new challenge. My world shifted again. Like the earth had just opened beneath me, and I was left standing on the precipice, staring into an abyss of unknown turmoil. And all I wanted was to escape, yet somehow, I felt tethered to him, this person whom I had never imagined becoming so important. Would I stand and face the storm ahead or shrink back into the shadows? The words echoed in my ears like a haunting refrain, "Mom's been admitted to the hospital." Panic washed over me, cold and unrelenting, a tidal wave that threatened to pull me under. I could hardly process the implications, the familiar fears crashing around me with violent intensity. "Is she okay?" My voice came out sharper than I intended, betraying the tempest of emotions swirling inside me. There was a long pause, punctuated by shaky breaths on the other end. I don't know yet. You should come to the hospital." The silence that followed was suffocating as I tried to think. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage like a wild thing desperate to escape. As I cast a glance at him, my boss, I felt the weight of expectation shift, the moment stretching thin between us. His expression had darkened, transforming into a storm of concern, and I could feel him reaching out, though I didn't dare to pull him in. "Not now. I'll be right there," I managed, my throat dry as I ended the call. "Hey," he said, his voice steadier than I felt, "do you want me to drive you?" The question hung in the air, a lifeline tossed in turbulent waters. I opened my mouth to protest, to insist on independence, but the words caught in my throat. What if I couldn't bear to be alone right now? What if I needed the comfort of human presence, even if it was just a brief interlude? Yes. I'd appreciate that. He nodded, and as we moved together through the familiar office halls, I could feel the anxiety shifting. It was a soft touch, fleeting yet grounding. Unexpected. I rushed through finding my belongings as he stood patiently, a quiet strength beside me. As soon as we were in the car, though, I felt the faint flicker of hope being snuffed out by a darker tide. Each traffic light turned from red to green like an uneven heartbeat. The city around us blurred, an expanse of noise and movement that felt detached from the world I had known just moments ago. My fingers gripped the edges of the seat, anxiously tracing the grains of the fabric as old confrontations hammered at my mind. "You're doing the best you can," he said gently, glancing at me from the corner of his eye. "I promise." His words settled into me, a balm against the anxious fray. "It's just I didn't think I'd have to deal with this again." I thought what? That life wouldn't throw more at you. His tone remained soft, coaxing, but I could feel warmth in his voice, a subtle challenge that I thought I'd have more time, I admitted, my heart heavy with the weight of unprocessed grief. A silence filled the space between us, and as we reached the hospital, the enormity of what lay ahead unfurled like a dark cloud. The parking lot was unforgiving, full of the harsh realities that awaited inside those walls. As we stepped out, I hesitated. "I don't want you to see me like this." "Like what?" His voice was steady, anchored. "Vulnerable," I said, searching for the right words. "Broken." "You're not broken," he replied, a fierce determination in his tone. "You're human." His words settled like fresh rain on parched earth, and I found myself breathing deeper, allowing a small fissure of hope to seep through the cracks of my apprehension. With his unwavering presence beside me, I felt braver. We entered the building, the sterile scent of antiseptic overwhelming but familiar. The waiting area was packed with anxious families, each person a shadow of grief and hope. My stomach twisted as I caught sight of my sister, her face pale, eyes swollen from a whirlwind of tears. As I approached her, she wrapped her arms around me, and I felt the weight of shared sorrow. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I managed, pulling away to look into her face. "That I didn't want to worry you," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Just as those words settled, a doctor emerged from the back, his expression grim. The tornado of emotions I had been holding back unleashed itself, raw and unfiltered. "Your mother," he began, and at that moment, my heart stopped, scrambling to comprehend the world around me. Did I have the strength to face whatever was to come? "Is she alive?" I blurted out, though deep down an omnipresent fear was beginning to take root. He inhaled deeply. "Your mother is stable," but instinctively, I turned to my boss, his eyes reflecting the same anxiety roiling within me, an unspoken connection surging between us despite the chaos. But in that fractured moment, everything began to fracture further when the doctor continued. "She appears to have a severe infection. We need to run more tests." A gaping chasm opened up inside me, filled with the weight of frustration and worry. The flickering hope I'd clutched so tenaciously now seemed like a cruel joke. My sister clung to my arm, the grip betraying her own dread. Just as the doctor turned to leave, he glanced back, adding, "I'd recommend contacting other family members. You may want to prepare for the worst." My breath hitched in my throat, and I felt the sting of tears pooling beneath the surface, threatening to overflow. The cold reality of life wrestled fiercely against the warmth of possibilities I'd dared to entertain. As the doctor disappeared, I felt lost, terrified of taking the next breath. Every challenge I thought I had faced, every struggle I thought I had already conquered erupted like a long-dormant volcano. In the midst of that swirling chaos, I turned to see my boss's steady gaze resting on me, unyielding, a beacon offering unspoken reassurances. But as our eyes locked, I saw something shift in his expression, a confusion that mirrored my own. He didn't know how to comfort me, nor did I expect him to. I was once again standing on that precipice, uncertain of where the ground would welcome my next step. I was consumed by shadows, teetering on the brink of despair, desperate for a glimmer of light. And just as I thought it could get no worse, a figure emerged from the waiting room, silhouette sharp against the fluorescent lights, a person I had never expected to see again. My heart sank, the familiar face entwined with memories I thought I had escaped. My father stood at the entrance, the embodiment of everything I both feared and loathed, and in that instant, the fragile ember of hope flickered dangerously close to extinguishing. The air shifted dramatically in the waiting room as my father's presence bore down upon me like a weight, pressing against my chest and stifling the flicker of hope that had begun to ignite. I hadn't seen him in years, not since the day we severed ties in a storm of harsh words and futile apologies. The time apart had etched deep lines across his face, lines that mirrored the regret I felt clawing at my insides. Did I guess it true? He asked, his voice barely a whisper, his gaze darting between my sister and me as if trying to decipher the layers of our shared pain. Why are you here? I managed, every word tainted with incredulity and an overwhelming urge to shield my sister from the impending conflict. She seemed almost lost in the chaos of our reunion, her features a blend of devastation and confusion as she absorbed the moment. That I heard, he replied, raising his hands defensively, as though the mere act of being here could absolve years of absence. I had to come. That I scoffed, incredulous. What do you think coming here will accomplish? You've spent years avoiding us, Dad. His face fell, the weight of my words registering with a pained acceptance. I know I haven't been there, but I want to change that now. Your mother is the only reason you're here, I interrupted, sharpness piercing through my conflicted emotions. The memories of his abandonment flooded back, intertwining with the worries for my mother, creating a tempest of anger and sorrow. My boss stepped forward, breaking the tension that hung like a heavy shroud. I think it's best if we focus on your mom right now, he said, his voice calm and reassuring. We can't change the past, but we can be here for her. For a brief moment, I felt gratitude swell within me. His presence steadied me, a reminder of the kindness I had desperately needed amidst the chaos. But then I stole a glance at my father, his vulnerability laid bare, and I felt a cruel twist in my heart. Could I set aside my resentments when so much was at stake? Before I could voice my internal conflict, the doctor re-entered the room, and the atmosphere shifted once again. His grave expression weighed heavily on the air. We've completed the tests. Your mother's infection is serious, but there's a treatment plan in place. Still, we need family support. It's critical for her recovery. Support, I repeated, feeling the bitter irony steal the breath from my lungs. You mean like the support you've never given? My words, though focused on my father, were laced with desperation. That we need to be there for her, all of us, my sister said gently, voice trembling but resolute. We can figure this out together. Her steadfastness caught me off guard, a moment of clarity amidst the turmoil. Perhaps we could harness our fragmented family history, confront the pain of neglect, and forge some semblance of unity, not for ourselves, but for Mom. With an uncertain nod, I turned my attention to my boss, who met my gaze with quiet understanding, as if he could see the turmoil waging war within me. Let's visit her, I suggested, forcing the words out with the weight of all I was feeling. We can do this together. As we made our way to the room, the sterile corridors of the hospital seemed eerily silent, the clamor of emotion surging beneath the surface. My father walked beside me, a few steps behind, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of forgiveness battling against the entrenched hurt. When we finally entered my mother's room, the sight of her frail form breathing softly beneath the bright, fluorescent light sent a new wave of anguish crashing over me. She looked so small, a stark contrast to the vibrant woman who raised me. I felt my heart squeeze painfully. My boss placed a comforting hand at the small of my back, urging me forward. Something about his touch reignited that flicker of hope. I stepped closer, taking my mother's hand in mine, grasping it tightly, willing her to awaken. A soft breath escaped my lips. Mom, we're here. We're all here. The warmth of her skin felt familiar, even through the haze of uncertainty flooding the room. Maybe this moment could be something. Elsia beginning. My father came in quietly, kneeling beside me. "I'm sorry," he murmured, eyes brimming with emotion. I wish I could take back the years. To my surprise, there was a stillness inside me as I simply nodded, a gesture that felt monumental. We could all believe in the possibility of healing. But the moment was interrupted as the nurse entered, her demeanor cheerful but tinged with urgency. "Excuse me," she said gently. "We've had some alarming lab results come in that I need to discuss with you all." My heart plummeted at her words, fear clawing at my insides. What more could go wrong? I felt the walls of my newfound hope begin to tremble under the weight of yet another potential blow, and then, in the midst of that precarious moment, my phone buzzed a message that momentarily pulled me away from the storm brewing within that room. I glanced down, mouth going dry as I read the sender's name. My heart raced, unexpected apprehension flooding my senses as the screen illuminated the words, "I need to meet. It's important. About your mother." I looked up, the world around me blurring as the implications crashed over me. This wasn't just about my mother anymore. I felt everything I had built up to protect myself teetering on the edge, shards of our fragmented lives trembling in a balance that could tip at any second. As the nurse's words sunk into the atmosphere, the silence that followed was deafening. My father's apology hung in the air like an unfinished sentence, a reminder that words though powerful were often insufficient in face of the chasm of our shared past. I glanced back at the message glowing in my palm. A chill coursed through me. "I need to meet. It's important. About your mother." Those words echoed ominously, intertwining with the fear and uncertainty swirling inside me. Who could possibly have knowledge that we didn't? It felt like standing on the precipice of a cliff, the abyss beckoning with shadows of memories best left undisturbed. As the nurse awaited our response, I noticed the flicker of anxiety in my sister's eyes, mirroring the growing storm in my heart. I had to choose. Should I dive into this unknown, or shield my family from what might be a dangerous revelation? I tucked my phone away almost instinctively. Maybe it was time for truth, no matter how disorienting. "Can we have a moment, please?" I asked the nurse, my voice steadier than I felt. She nodded, slipping out of the room, leaving just us three souls woven together by blood, yet so frayed by years of turmoil. My father's gaze awaited an answer, full of apprehension, perhaps brimming with hope to an ironic twist given his history. I could feel my sister inching forward, her hand instinctively finding mine. "What now?" my sister asked softly, breaking the heavy silence. I shifted my gaze from my father's solemn expression to my mother's still frame. "What do we know?" I asked. "What do we really know about what's happening with her?" I don't know," my father stammered, confusion clouding his features. "I thought it was just an infection. I never wanted any of this." A swell of anger bubbled within me again. "You never wanted any of this? You left. You abandoned us." I felt the weight of years of bottled resentment resurface, fueled by the raw emotional backdrop of our mother's condition. "I am trying to be here," he countered, voice trembling. "Please don't push me away now. I know I'm late to the game, but I'm here." The sincerity in his words struck a chord, a thread of compassion weaving through my anger. "I want to believe that, Dad, but it's hard when I feel like the ground is shifting beneath us every second." As if on cue, my phone buzzed again in my pocket, reminder of that unresolved message. I looked down, and that familiar apprehension clutched at me anew. "Do you think it's possible we can both try?" my sister ventured, her voice soft yet resolute, as though she were a lighthouse guiding us through a storm. "For Mom's sake." It was then that I understood. Her unwavering belief served as a balm, urging us to confront our past so we could protect our future. Just as I thought I might collect my thoughts, the door swung open, and the nurse stepped back in, her expression unreadable. "I have the results," she began softly, looking directly at me, as though sensing the turmoil coursing through our small circle. "Should we wait for the others?" my father asked earnestly, subtle worry coloring his tone. "There may not be time for that. We need to address this now," she replied, then turned her attention to the room, the weight of her role evident in her demeanor. "Your mother's infection is severe, and the treatments aren't having the effect we hoped for. We need to act quickly. My heart thudded raggedly. What does that mean? I demanded, unable to mask the fear that resonated in my voice. There are options, she said, choosing her words with care. But we must consider all of them. Support from family is critical, especially now. He'll do whatever it takes, my father vowed, raw sincerity evident in his voice. Before I could respond, the sound of my phone buzzing again broke through the oppressive atmosphere. I pulled it out and felt a jolt as I saw a new message flash across the screen. Meet me outside. It's urgent. You'll want to hear this. My heart raced, a new fear feeding the turmoil within me. What could possibly be more important than my mother's health right now? I exchanged worried glances. With my sister and father, the dread twisting the pit of my stomach into knots. Are you okay? My sister asked, her brow creased with concern, almost as if she could see the words forming in my mind. I still wasn't sure if following my instinct was the right choice. Would I be unearthing more turmoil, digging through layers of past pain? Yet, the urgency in that message seemed to choke out any hesitation. I need to take this, I managed, voice firm despite the fear swimming through my veins. Why now? My father's voice was cautious, the echo of regret hanging heavy in the air. Because I need to know if it impacts Mom, if I can help her, I replied, looking straight into his eyes. For the first time, I saw the hint of understanding dawning on his face, a spark that mirrored my desperate urge for clarity amidst chaos. As I stepped outside, a cold gust of wind hit my face, reality jolting through me like a sharp intake of breath. The urgency of the situation coiled tighter around my chest with each step, shrouded in shadows of doubt and fear. The figure waiting in the courtyard leaned against a wall, arms crossed, a grim expression etched across their features. As I approached, their face broke into a contemplative frown. Thank you for coming, they said, their voice steady but laced with an undercurrent I couldn't quite read. What I have to tell you is your mother's condition is connected to something much bigger. It's critical that you listen. An icy wave washed over me, as if the universe itself had paused, and somewhere within that moment, I realized that this revelation could change everything. The world around me faded as I grasped the full weight of the words hanging in the air. Connected to something much bigger. I echoed, a lump forming in my throat, my heart racing. This couldn't just be about our mother's health. It felt like we were teetering on the brink of some vast mystery that had been hidden from us for far too long. I noticed the figure shifting nervously, the way their eyes darted to the ground and then back up to meet mine. Yes, it's complicated. But I promise I wouldn't be here if it weren't important. The shadows from the nearby trees danced across their face, their expression a mix of resolve and restraint. Who are you? I managed, still grappling with the sudden shift from the hospital's sterile environment to this ominous confrontation. You know something I don't, and it's about my mother. That's all I care about, the figure sighed, the burden of unspoken words palpable in the air. I'm a friend of the familiar in a way. More than you realize. I've watched your mother struggle for years, and now there are things about her illness that run deeper than any diagnosis. Their voice trembled slightly, struggling under the pressure of what felt like a colossal revelation. Without waiting for my reaction, they continued, your mother's illness isn't just physical. It involves something that goes back to a history long before your time, long before I even knew her. People in our circle, they hesitated, searching for the right phrase, have kept secrets, and some of those secrets are about to come to the surface. Every beat of my heart pulsed with anxiety, the air between us thickening with anticipation. What do you mean, our circle? I asked, confusion clouding my thoughts. There's a reason your mother has been dealing with this for so long. There are connections to a group, something she left behind for your sake, they said, every word heavy with implications. She thought it was for the best, to protect you and your sister from the truth. Memories flashed through my mind like ancient photographs, my mother's secretive phone calls, the boxes of old photographs stacked high in the attic, the whispers that would die the moment we entered a room. What is this group? What does it have to do with her? The questions spilled out in a rush, urgency taking over the remnants of restraint. The figure glanced around, as if ensuring that no one was eavesdropping, and then leaned closer. They believed your mother had knowledge that could threaten everything they stand for. When she distanced herself, she thought she was safe. But now, they need her again. And that's why her health is declining. The icy chill of desperation gripped my heart, a storm of emotions swirling inside me. These weren't just the fragmented stories I had heard growing up, they were the potential roots of my mother's suffering. You're saying she's being targeted for knowing something? For what she didn't want to be a part of? Exactly, they affirmed, their expression darkening. And the urgency of this moment is because they think she might still possess crucial information that could swing their power back in their favor. A wave of rage boiled within me, an instinctive protectiveness surging to the forefront. What do they want? And what can I do? I felt a primal need to guard my family, to shield my mother from whatever forces were closing in around her. I don't know the full extent of their plans, but they're dangerous. You should talk to your father and sister. They need to know, they warned, their tone urgent. Just as I opened my mouth to reply, a shrill ping echoed in the stillness, cutting through our conversation. My phone vibrated violently against my palm, the screen lighting up my face. The message was from my sister. Where are you? Mom's condition just changed. Please hurry. An icy grip encased my chest, dread creeping in as I met the figure's somber gaze. I have to go, I whispered, the implications of the new message echoing through me. The urgency of my mother's health collided violently with this newfound truth, the two pushing and pulling at my heart and mind. Please. The figure pleaded, stepping back as I turned away. Whatever you discover, whatever happens next, don't forget what I told you. It's not just her health at stake. And this isn't over. The chilling weight of their words hung in the air as I sprinted toward the entrance of the hospital, each step paving the path toward an unknown future yet tethered to the lingering shadows of the past. As I entered the building, a foreboding sense gnawed at my gut. The truth, however painful, was no longer a choice. We were tangled in it now. With my heart pounding loudly in my ears, I rushed down the corridor, every breath a mix of fear and hope, stepping into a reality I knew would forever alter the landscape of our family. As I rounded the corner, I nearly collided with my father and sister coming from the opposite direction, worry etched on their faces. What happened? Where have you been? My father demanded, and all the weight of the moment crashed down on me, but I wasn't prepared for what lay ahead. The secrets that were about to unravel would test us beyond our fears. Before I could respond, a sudden sound echoed throughout the hospital, an urgent beep followed by the rushing of feet. It was a call to action. My heart dropped as I realized it might already be too late. The air in the hospital grew alarmingly dense as my family and I exchanged frantic glances, each heartbeat echoing the urgency of the situation. The chaos around us heightened my anxiety, and I could feel the weight of my own unspoken truths heavy on my chest. What's going on? My sister's voice trembled, eyes wide with fear. She was the youngest, and despite everything we had faced, my instinct was to protect her from this moment, to shield her from the harsh realities that lay ahead. My voice faltered, still torn between the impending crisis with our mother and the shadows swirling in my mind from the stranger's warning. I just found out some things about Mom, I stammered, uncertain of how much to reveal. The last thing I wanted was to burden them with the weight of an unknown threat. We need to hurry. My father's brows knitted together in concern as he pulled us into a huddle. What did you find out? Is it bad? He pressed, his voice low yet urgent. I could see the worry etched across his face, a transformation of the stoic man I had always known. Just as I was about to explain, the blaring alarms intensified, forcing us into motion. The echo of footsteps drew closer, and nurses began rushing past us, their expressions a blend of determination and concern. With a shared look of dread, we followed the commotion, desperate to understand what was happening. As we reached the waiting area outside my mother's room, the sight that greeted us made my stomach drop. Medical staff swarmed around her bed, voices raised in urgency. The curtain was drawn tightly, yet the tension in the air was palpable. I felt my sister clutch my hand, nails biting into my skin as fear radiated off her small frame. What are they doing to Mom? Her voice trembled. I don't know, I whispered, but my heart sank as I felt a sense of helplessness wash over me. A single thought raced through my mind: what if I had waited too long to act? What if the secrets I was uncovering weren't just about our family history but also tied to this crucial moment? I couldn't shake the feeling that our past was colliding with our present dangerously. My father tried to break through the crowd, but a nurse stepped in front of him, her expression firm but compassionate. "Sir, we need you to wait outside for now. We're doing everything we can." The feeling of being pushed to the sidelines sparked a primal urge to fight back. A memory surged within me, the figure's words echoing in the back of my mind. I could protect her. I had to uncover the truth so we could save her. I can't just stand here. I objected, a surge of determination swelling in my chest. I turned to my father, battling the fear that coiled around us. If what I learned is right, we need to know how to confront this group before it's too late. "That's enough," he said, his voice steadier than I felt, yet I sensed the tremor of doubt behind his words. "Focus on your mother." The word stung, a harsh reminder of the task set before us. I wanted to scream, to clutch at the edges of my sanity, but instead, I took a deep breath and forced myself to stay calm. It was time to gather myself, to step back from the chaos and prepare to dive even deeper into the shadows that danced around our family. Just then, a doctor emerged from the curtain, his eyes scanning the room before settling on my father. My heart raced at his expression, diligent yet cautious, with a hint of sympathy. "Mr. Hill, we need to talk." The air felt charged as he beckoned to my father, leading him away to a quieter corner of the waiting area, but I could feel the weight of his conversation spilling over even from a distance. I turned to my sister, her pale face reminiscent of a ghost. "I'll be right back," I promised, squeezing her hand gently before following. As I drew closer, snippets of their discussion reached my ears, suffocated by the overwhelming sound of my heartbeat. "We're doing everything possible. She's stable for now, but there are complications." The doctor's voice thinned into a whisper, words lost beneath the cacophony of emotions. Suddenly, a chance passed through me. I could use this moment, this air of unease, to gather intel. I stepped into the shadowed space just outside of their view, tension prickling down my spine, and focused on eavesdropping. The words that followed sent a chill through my body. "Complications from her treatment. It could be related to her past," the doctor said. "We need to ask her about her history." Before just then, an unexpected commotion erupted from behind me. I turned quickly, startled, only to witness a figure striding into the waiting area. An unfamiliar woman, her demeanor confident and unsettling. Her presence swept through the room with an air of authority that drew every gaze. I felt an icy jolt of recognition as she locked her eyes onto mine. The urgency to run collided with something deeper, a frightening sense of fate. The figure I feared was about to step into our lives, and just like that, the delicate threads of our family's fate began to unravel in ways I could never have imagined. I could feel that the true battle for my mother's life was about to begin, not solely against her illness but also a conflict shadowed by the secrets we had buried for far too long. As the doctor continued to speak with my father, I approached the woman slowly, heart pounding, the gravity of the moment pulling at my very soul. "Who are you?" I demanded, but a flicker of understanding crossed her face, one that hinted she wasn't there purely by coincidence. "Let's just say I'm a part of the story, and things are about to get much more complicated," she replied, her voice low but laced with certainty, and in that moment, I realized that the chaos would soon engulf us. Ali was not prepared for the depths of this heady revelation about to fracture our lives. My mother wasn't merely facing a health crisis, we were standing at the edge of something far darker, and it was only a matter of time before the truth clawed its way to the surface. The air shifted, crackling with tension, as the woman stared at me with an intensity that seemed to pierce through my veil of confusion and fear. I was teetering on the edge of a discovery that promised to change everything about our lives. Her presence sparked a deep-rooted anxiety, yet there was something strangely comforting about the way she held herself, as if she understood a truth that would soon be unveiled, one that had been kept from us for so long. "That I don't know you," I managed to say, forcing myself to stand tall despite the tremor of uncertainty coursing through my veins. My heartbeat surged, drowning out the muffled chatter of anxious families and busy nurses around us. "What do you mean by part of the story?" The corners of her mouth twitched, revealing a trace of empathy mixed with inscrutable knowledge. "Your mother has been living a life riddled with complications far beyond her health. You're not just fighting for her life here, you're caught in the crosshairs of something much larger. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. What does that mean? Are we in danger? I demanded, my voice trembling now. I was tired of feeling helpless, tired of the looming threats that hung like shadows over my family. Danger is a relative term, she mused, glancing around before leaning closer. What you need to understand is that your mother made decisions that put her at odds with entities that don't take kindly to loose ends. Her voice trailed off, and for just a moment, the weight of her implication crushed my hope. I clasped my hands tightly together, grounding myself. Entities. I repeated dumbly, feeling the chill of her words seep into me. What kind of entities? As if sensing my distress, she softened slightly, her demeanor shifting. You have a right to know, but it's not something I can explain fully here. There are ears everywhere, and you need to trust me. There was a haunting sincerity in her eyes that drew my focus away from the chaos of the waiting area. But whatever is coming, you can't face it alone. A flash of anger ignited within me. Don't you dare put this on me. My mother is in there fighting for her life, and all you can do is dance around your cryptic messages. Who are you to say I can't do this alone? I could feel the hot pulse of frustration surging in my throat. The situation was spiraling rapidly, threatening to envelop everything I held dear. That I am someone who knows the truth, she replied, her voice unwavering. And if you want any chance of helping your mother, you need to confront it head-on. I didn't come here to threaten you or your family. I came to give you an opportunity to break the cycle of pain, but you must choose to act. The frustration waned momentarily, replaced by a flicker of hope. What if this woman held the key to the answers I had sought, the very knowledge that could shatter the chains binding my family to a past riddled with darkness? But before I could respond, the doctor returned, gravitating towards my father with urgency written all over his face. Catching my sister's eye, I saw the worry she wore like a mask, her small lips trembling as if she sensed the growing storm around us. That I have to go, I whispered to the woman, taking a step back. Ill. Think about what you said. Her eyes bored into mine, and I felt the weight of her unwavering gaze. Just remember, she said softly, the truth is often more complicated than you can imagine. Find me when you're ready. It may be your only chance. The gravity of those words latched onto me like a vice, but I had no time to process their meaning. I turned, rushing to my family's side, where my father's face was drawn and grim. The doctor laid out a map of treatment options, each sentence heavy with implications. As he spoke about clinical trials and the need for historical context in our mother's case, my mind was racing back to the woman's warning. Without thought, I reached for my father's hands, gripping them tightly. Dad, we need to know everything about Mom's past. There's something we're missing, something that could be connected. His eyes, tinged with exhaustion, flickered with a hint of mistrust. What do you mean? I don't know yet, but it's important. The doctor mentioned complications tied to her history. We can't afford to overlook anything right now. My heart thudded in my chest, a frantic rhythm pounding against the backdrop of medical jargon and fear. The doctor paused mid-sentence, looking between us with a mixture of concern and confusion. If there are specific medical details about your mother's history, he started, but my father shook his head. That I don't want to dredge up old wounds if it's not relevant. His voice was steady, but I could see the inner turmoil mirrored in the furrow of his brow. I don't care about wounds. I care about saving her. I pleaded, desperation creeping into my voice. Just then, an eerie chill swept through the room, a foreboding presence that sent a ripple of apprehension through our small huddle. The familiar woman was once again standing at the periphery of our family circle, her sharp gaze piercing through the scanner of chaos. I felt the weight of her unspoken message hovering around us, a dark reminder that the battle was just beginning. As she stepped into the bright light of the hospital corridor, something flickered in her eyes. Was it warning or compassion? My breath hitched, as I realized that our world was on the brink of unraveling. I had stood on the edge of secrecy, teetering between the knowledge that could destroy my family and the raw instinct to protect them at all costs. Whatever lies ahead, we will face it together, I declared, searching each of their eyes for support. But as I turned back to locate the woman, she was gone, swallowed by the disorienting swirl of hospital life. But her words lingered, reverberating through the walls of my mind. Things are about to get much more complicated, and panic gripped my heart. What did we not know, and would we be able to face it before it was too late? As my father reached for the treatment options again, unable to see the connections forming in my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were racing against time. And the shadows lingering around my mother were darker than I had ever imagined. I stumbled out of the heavy-scented medical wing, the fluorescent lights now a blur of agonizing brightness. The sterile smell was suffocating, and each footstep I took echoed back the mounting dread in my heart. I needed air, clarity, anything to ground me. I pushed through the double doors and stepped outside, where the cool evening breeze danced across my face, a stark contrast to the pressing despair inside. That I leaned against the cold, metal railing of the balcony, taking deep breaths as I tried to quell the storm inside me. Each inhale felt like a fight against the suffocating worry that gripped my chest. The sunset painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, yet in that moment, I saw nothing but darkness. In those fleeting seconds of stillness, I remembered the woman, the secrets she carried, and the hope she held out like a lifeline. Despite my fears, something inside urged me to reach out, to dig deeper. I had no idea where to start, but knowing there was more to my mother's life than her illness ignited a fire in me. I couldn't let my family, especially my mother, slip into the abyss without knowing the full story. That I rummaged through my phone and searched for anything related to my mother's past, any old records or hints that could lead me to uncover her secrets. My fingers flew across the screen, and I found myself in a convoluted rabbit hole of genealogy websites and archives. I came across a familiar name, one that sparked a chill through me. My mother's grandfather, a man I had only heard about in whispers as a dark figure hovering over our family history. As I dug deeper, the first inklings of unsettling truths began to surface. Tales of family secrets entangled with whispers of betrayal and lost affections emerged, wrapping around me like a cocoon of unease. I learned of an incident long buried, a tragedy tied to my grandfather and his dealings with individuals who seemed to shadow our family like specters. Anxiety twisted in my gut as I realized that the woman's warning about entities might have roots deeper than I imagined. I lost track of time, swallowed by revelations that felt more twisted with every click. The relentless storm clouding my thoughts was disrupted by the soft vibrations of my phone. It was a text from my sister, asking if I was all right. The worry bleeding through her words tugged at my heart. I hadn't told anyone about the woman or the darkness cast across our family, but as I responded, letting her know I was just outside, a sudden unease penetrated the air. I sensed a presence behind me. Spinning around, my breath caught in my throat as my eyes locked onto the very woman I had just been thinking about. She stood there, seemingly effortlessly shrouded in an aura that felt like both heaviness and grace. "Why do you follow me?" My voice trembled with a mix of incredulity and desperation. "What is it you want?" "I'm here to guide you," she responded, her voice low yet compelling, laced with an urgency that sent ripples through the tension humming between us. "You're beginning to uncover the truth, but you must be careful. Knowledge can be as dangerous as it is liberating." "What do you mean by that?" I pressed, unwavering in my pursuit of answers. She had spoken of my mother's past, and I needed the pieces to connect. There are forces at play that will not let you uncover the truth without consequence. They will silence anyone who poses a threat. There was a flicker of something dark in her eyes, fear or warning, perhaps both. "You must tread carefully, and if you seek the truth, you cannot allow yourself to become part of the story that haunts your family." For a moment, that newfound spark of resilience I had felt began to dim. The gravity of her statement unfurled in the back of my mind, mixing with the anxiety that had flooded me since stepping into the hospital. "What do you want from me?" I shot back, feeling almost foolish for cowering under her gaze. "Nothing but to free you from the shackles that bind your family, but it's a choice you must make willingly. You must act soon or risk losing everything." Her voice was steady, a far cry from the turmoil that thrashed behind my own eyes. A cacophony of voices erupted from the hospital entrance, pulling my attention momentarily back to reality. The doctor was leading my father and sister outside, their expressions clouded with apprehension. But it was then I noticed something peculiar. A man in a dark suit, standing just out of reach, his head slightly downturned, but I could sense the calculating, predatory energy radiating from him. Who is that? I asked, my voice half a whisper as I gestured to the stranger. The woman immediately stiffened, glancing over her shoulder before locking her gaze back on me. You need to go back to your family. Trust your instincts, and remember the truth doesn't always unravel as you expect. Choose wisely, and with that, she faded into the shadows of the setting sun, leaving me engulfed by an unsettling urgency to return to my family and confront whatever shadows threatened to drag us down. But as I turned back toward them, a deep sense of foreboding gripped me. The man in dark suit was now moving, his presence looming over my family like a storm cloud ready to burst. What did he want? And was it too late to stop the unraveling? I sprinted towards them, feeling the weight of 1,000 possibilities on my shoulders. Whatever came next, the course had been set, and I felt the first crack of an inevitable storm raging just beyond my family's fragile shores. The atmosphere in the hospital corridor felt charged, electric with anxiety and uncertainty. Each step I took toward my family felt like wading deeper into murky waters, the tide threatening to pull me under and drown me in chaos. The man in the dark suit lingered at the entrance, his posture exuding predation, and my heart raced with the realization that whatever cloaked our lives in secrecy was about to seize upon us with relentless force. As I approached my father and sister, their anxious faces reflected a silent understanding that something was amiss. The doctor had just given them the news, and I could sense the cascade of emotions, a mix of fear, confusion, and the unyielding weight of possibility as they turned to me. Where did you go? My sister asked, worry etched into her features. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, I felt a rush of breath behind me. The man edged ever closer, his presence pulling taut the strings of unease within me. Is everyone all right? I forced out, casting a quick glance at the doctor, who maintained a level of professionalism despite the crackling tension in the air. Is Mom? She's stable but needs more support, the doctor interrupted, glancing past me toward the man in the suit who lingered, eyes narrowing. If there's anything about your mother's past, anything she may have been involved with. Stop, my father interjected, his voice clipped but uncertain. We don't know anything about that. The disbelief echoed harshly, veiling the truth that was simmering dangerously beneath the surface. I stepped forward, steeling myself against the swell of uncertainty. Everything is connected. We need to figure out what's going on. Who that man is. The doctor's expression became grave as he scrutinized the figure at a distance. If he's here, it means you may not have the luxury of time. Without knowing what threatens her, we cannot ensure her safety. The air shifted like a current, and as I looked back toward the man, he had closed the gap, now mere feet away. You need to listen. His voice was smooth, like silk wrapped around cold steel, and my instincts clanged alarm bells. I've come on behalf of your mother's associates. It's imperative you understand the delicate balance we're all treading. My father's posture stiffened as the man spoke, his face an unreadable mask. What do you want? He managed, a subtle tremor lacing his question. I felt my heart race, the truths whispered by that woman earlier tightening their grip on me. We want to help, but your mother is part of a much bigger narrative than you realize. Her choices shaped the path you're standing on now. I wasn't prepared for what I felt next, a dizzying swell of conflicting emotions. Confusion, fear, but most profoundly, a sense of rising anger at the way our lives had been dictated by forces we were only beginning to comprehend. Enough with the riddles, I said, voice firm despite the tremor within. What are you asking us to do? You think we'll just stand aside while some shadowy past claims are present? He shook his head slowly, eyes glinting dangerously in the fluorescent light. I'm here to warn you. If you keep digging into your mother's past without understanding the repercussions, you will incur risks that could endanger your lives and her health. What do you mean? My words tumbled out, a shaky uncertainty gnawing at my resolve. My sister clutched my arm tighter, as if anchoring me against the tide threatening to pull us away. He stepped closer, his tone dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. She's not simply battling an infection, she stands at the threshold of being pulled back into a world she thought she had left behind. And they believe that if she speaks out, if you discover the truth. And what? I interrupted, cutting through the oppressive air. What happens if we know? What are you protecting her from? From herself, he replied, gaze unflinching. And from the consequences of decisions made long ago. You will face repercussions you cannot fathom. She will lose more than her life if you're not careful. Tension wound tighter around us, much like a coiled spring. The vulnerability that once gripped me evaporated, replaced by a heart heavy with determination. Whatever she's facing, we're all in this together. We're not hiding anymore, I declared, punctuating my resolve. The man regarded me with something akin to respect, a flicker of acknowledgement of my defiance. Then you have to approach this with caution. There's more at stake than you can comprehend. Remember, they are watching your every move. Do not lead them to your mother. How do you know so much? My father interjected, skepticism creeping into his voice. You need to explain why we should trust you. I don't expect you to trust me, he admitted, a hint of danger lacing his tone. But your mother is a key piece in a puzzle laden with secrets and shifts in power. It's not just about her health anymore, it's about safeguarding your family's legacy. Legasimi mind echoed the word, the weight of its meaning pressing down on me. I glanced at my father's uncertain expression, then to my sister, whose eyes held a mixture of hope and fright. What had happened to our lives? Where had this path led? Make your choice now, he continued, his voice even. Walk away and protect her from what's coming, or dig deeper and face the consequences. And just like that, silence fell upon our group, heavy with the definition of impending chaos. That I could feel reality spiraling as my mind raced, but all of the moments leading up to this, every heartache, every scar crashed together in a fluid wave of determination. If we walk away now, how can we protect her? If we learn, we fight. And if we face what's coming, we do it together. Before the man could respond, the doctor rejoined us, catching the tension crackling in the air. What's happening? He met my gaze with concern. We need to act fast. My heart beat wild, and I turned to my family, seeing the fear in their eyes juxtaposed against the defiance sparking within me. We're going to find the truth, I swear it. But we will do it together. The weight of that promise anchored me in the storm, a fragile yet resilient force pulling my family closer. Whatever truths lay hidden ahead, I knew we would be stronger in our confrontation than alone in our fears. The journey was no longer just about my mother's health, it was our family's legacy at stake, entwined in the chaos of secrets long buried. Then let's do this, my father replied, a spark ignited in his eyes as though he too had begun to embrace the coming storm. Whatever it takes. The man in the dark suit narrowed his eyes, taking a step back as if to concede this battle. Beware the shadows, he warned, lingering before turning, clearly indicating he would no longer intrude on our resolve. As he vanished into the bustling chaos of the hospital, I clasped my sister's hand, anchoring her tableau of uncertainty. We would face whatever came next, and perhaps discover, together, that the strength we needed had always resided within our unfinished story. And as I looked at my father, watching him square his shoulders, lovingly interlacing our fingers, it became clear, the truth would indeed have its reckoning, and we would be its harbingers, forever intertwined in a legacy of love and courage. Nothing would stand between us and our mother's fight, nor would we let the ghosts of our past dictate our future. We began to walk resolutely toward her room, a family united against the rising tide, and fear began to part like the curtains of dawn. With every beat of my heart, I understood that we were ready to face whatever the shadows might unveil, and in that moment, I felt a flicker of hope igniting like a star blooming against the backdrop of night, the source of change, the promise of life, and the bittersweet understanding that the battle was just beginning. We would claim our truth, and no darkness would extinguish the light we carried within. No longer afraid that in the end, we would not merely survive, we would rise from the ashes, reborn and resolute, ready to wield our truth like a sword against whatever darkness dared to threaten our family again. And as we entered that hospital room, I exhaled deeply. Life was waiting for us, no more hiding, only healing. Together. Always.